here to get these. So you can see that the ground cover has completely been hindered by the spraying, because they obviously sprayed from, you know, this particular pine to this pine, and these pines. And in doing that, the barberry underneath got hindered as well. It's coming back. It's not totally dead, but it was black the last time we were here about a month ago. And here's another strip. You can just tell, it's obvious. It's green here and then it's black there. So you can tell what's been damaged and hit is from herbicidal applications last fall between November and Thanksgiving and Christmas. NStar came out and applied on the, not on foliar, but on the woody trees. And this is what we're seeing, you know, months later, 6, 7, 8 months later, is that there's still a lot of hindrance. But yet, as you can tell, the trees weren't totally killed. So NStar will be back to do another application at some point, making sure that these trees die back completely so they don't hinder our electrical wires. A broad view is that it looks dead for 8 towns now on Cape Cod. So they're planning to come back to spray 11 towns, and they would then be doing these that they started that didn't catch fully. So that means they'd have to come back and do another application. Unfortunately, this is what the townspeople don't want above an aquifer. So we're here today pruning, just cutting back, and you know, it'll lessen the amount of herbicides they're going to use. I mean, that's what we're showing, is that we can do this, and ultimately it would be you know, changing laws, but to get the towns to be in charge of their jurisdiction, of their power lines, to cut back vegetation in any way they want to, other than using, you know, chemicals to do it. You could mow, go back to mowing is the easiest answer. You have people volunteers, you could, you know, hire people, companies, landscape companies that are locals that already exist here, and have them do it. It's not hard to do. NStar's previous plan, maintaining vegetation, was through mowing once every 7 years. And now they put in their YOP, the yearly operational plan, that they're going to use 5 different types of herbicides plus a petroleum-based surfactant, and we don't want this. It's unnecessary. You know, they say it's cheaper, it's easier. Yeah, but we don't know the health consequences yet. So until better testing's been done, we don't want to feel like guinea pigs. So there's a lot of people, there's state reps, there's organizations already established here on the Cape that are against this way of maintaining between 100 to 120 miles on the Cape. It's like the backbone of Cape Cod is going to look like this. It's just a shame.
Today we're here. This is the third sequence of our land stewardship program event, clearing the under the power lines in Harwich. We're at the Muddy Creek Conservation Land. Isabel Smith is right over here. That's one of Harwich Conservation Trust signature trails. We have water department land over there and town conservation land here. And essentially we're here today to dissuade NStar from spraying the utility right-of-ways. We actually noticed there was an issue a couple months ago. We had an eastern box turtle walk out here. A lot of volunteers, a lot of community people, and they asked the question, what happened to all these pitch pines here? You can kind of see a field of brown. And that can usually mean 2 things. One is there's some type of disease or blight, but you can tell that it's not anywhere else outside of this right-of-way. So we had a few people come in, people who have actually had experience in this industry, and they reinforced that this was spraying, and this would have been done last fall. You can see there is still some new growth on these pitch pines, and that's why we're out today to actually lop them so that NStar won't have to come back again and spray them. And what we're doing is we are assorting them in little piles around. That's going to make sure there's no blanket deadwood cover. That would be maybe a potential fire hazard, and it would actually smother this good growth that we want to encourage. Most of this is bearberry and some other, heathland type shrubs. We're going to actually leave the scrub oaks today because in general they don't grow more than 20 feet at their highest. I've never seen one close to that, and it looks like these have been previously mowed in the past, so we don't see them as an immediate threat up above, and they're a great habitat for this area. This is kind of a wildlife corridor between a lot of conservation land and forested area. The reason also we care about NStar spraying is that this is a Zone 2 groundwater recharge area for the town. There are a couple public wells a couple hundred yards away, and as we know, our groundwater is very important on Cape Cod. Sole source aquifer, we have very sandy soil. We don't really know the impacts of what mass spraying does, especially this close to our water source, so we felt it was our duty to come out and try an alternative, and that's what we're doing today. And I'll be documenting it and seeing, how many people it took, how many hours we spent, how much land we covered, to hopefully understand a little more what could be done instead of spraying, as most people out here don't want spraying. That's pretty apparent. Every town pretty much has voted against it. Public opinion is against it. So we found this is a good alternative. Brewster Conservation Trust did it earlier in the year. It was successful, and this is a great way to engage community members, both HCT volunteers and people from outside, some of whom are here today.
Now, you said you went on the turtle walk. Now, would the spraying really affect the wildlife as well?
We don't know. Not sure, but that uncertainty is enough to be proactive and try something that will hopefully dissuade. I can't see why a lot of chemicals being sprayed is beneficial to the environment. And yeah, for the precautionary principle, an established rule of thumb for science, I think we're going to follow that for now, which is we don't know all the implications. I don't know of many studies in sandier soil, especially with a sole source aquifer. So this is the best we could do for right now. We're gonna keep trying. We've already covered a few hundred yards with not too many volunteers, and we have a few hundred yards to go here, and there's another town water department land about a mile away. So by the end of summer, we'll see where we get.
All right.
But I'm not sure. I can't see it would be beneficial to box turtles, especially that are species of special concern that live out here. Not sure.
Now, is there any concern, because there's a trail right here as well, that, if they're spraying and they hit the trail and then people are walking on the trail, if they're tracking it to other locations as well? You know anything about that?
I would say at least what the studies have been done seems to suggest that these chemicals bind up in the roots of things. So as long as they're spraying in this area, I don't see that to be a huge issue, but we don't know the actual time or day that they're spraying. I know there are public notices, but it could be anywhere. That 48-hour notice in some paper, someone could be walking out here and not know. And that's a good point. Maybe it would be nice for the public to know a little bit more about if they're going to be walking through this trail, should they not touch something or brush up on something. That's a fair opinion.
Babiak. I'm from, I live in East Harwich during the summer. I'm from Western Connecticut during the rest of the school year, I guess you could say. I enjoy doing conservation work like this. It's good for the land, it's good for the people of East Harwich and the Cape in general. I think we all need to be more cognizant, I guess, of the problems with spraying the pesticides on the plants, its effect on the water, and I think as many people as possible who are aware of this. I think we can make a difference with NStar, and I think we can all help improve the land and the quality of the land and the water that we're drinking every day.
And how old are you?
I'm 17. I'm going to my senior year in high school. I'm interested in environmental studies, conservation work, and I enjoy doing hands-on work like this. So.
You abut property, the power lines, and you've got a well kind of close by, don't you?
Yeah, I do. My well is 50 feet, 40 feet, something like that. And it's the water is beautiful. It's in the town of Yarmouth where most of the water is public water, but I live on the very edge. And I have a great well. I've tested it.
You did get on the testing then?
I did. I mean, I went further, you know, than just the nitrates and stuff like that. I went for pesticides and VOCs, and cost a little bit of money, but it's clean as a whistle.
Excellent.
And
Ryan, how you doing over there?
That's a good baseline.
It's my baseline. Yeah. I mean,
make sure to stay hydrated.
I don't know, I'd go too far to say that after they spray, I'd test it again, and if there's anything in it, I'll come after them. But I do know that I have grandchildren and dogs that play, and what I'm really concerned about is if they spray, there's no real time letting the neighbors know. So they could spray on a Friday afternoon, my grandkids could come over, and we could go playing with the dogs or berry picking on the power lines, and we wouldn't even know that we were eating this stuff.
Yep.
My kids would be rolling in it with my puppies, you know. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why not just public land under the power lines needs to be protected, but our wells, you know, lots of people have wells, especially on the outer Cape, going right down next to the power lines.
Yeah.
So I went out and got a big sign. The Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources specifies what kind of sign, and I've got that sign up by my well, private drinking supply or whatever.
Excellent.
But you know, I mean, it's a little bit upgrade of my house where the power lines are, and you know, nobody's looked at whether there's a big clay slab under there, and when they spray and the first rain, it just rolls right down. We don't know which direction the water's going from the power lines. I'm going to try to enforce the setback in terms of where they spray, but it doesn't really make me comfortable. I don't think the regulations, you know, like I said, my next door neighbors have all kinds of blackberries that they grow in their yard, which is the power line.
Wow.
You know.
A lot of people use what they abut, right? Their power lines
Absolutely.
For gardens, for keeping animals, livestock, horses. And, you know, NStar will come through and do what they need to do, despite our, you know, harvests and such. I think that what we can do as townspeople is we can actually put a stake where a well is to, you know, make that more obvious. They say they're going to have a GPS and somebody monitoring saying, oh, don't go that far, you know, that day. Whether the GPS works in Wellfleet, let's say, or not, who knows?
Well, interesting, because I sent a letter to the town health department, and I said, I know that most of the wells in town aren't private, but mine is, and it's within this zone, and I would like you to make sure that it gets on NStar's map.
Excellent.
I do not know whether that has happened or not, but...
They were to have, each town was given a moratorium a year to map all wells and give it to NStar, so supposedly they have that, and MDAR information. If there's new things coming up, that's up to each town to re-regulate, you know, passing that paperwork. The other thing towns can do is put up signs, what you said. You know, in this area, it's been sprayed, and the date would be really good, you know, so people can say, hey, it's been 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 rainstorms. I'm willing to walk on this again.
Well, I go further than that on, you know, it's a public utility, and I did send a letter to Department of Agricultural Resources about this, but my feeling is if NStar is paying contractors, they probably can monitor where those contractors are at any moment, just to make sure they're not a Dunkin' Donuts, for God's sake. And you know, my point is there should be real time. I should be able to get home from work on a Thursday afternoon, punch onto a website, and see where those contractor trucks were today. I work at the airport, and I know that I can go back 2 years, 3 years, and see every single plane and its approach and its takeoff on recorded radar. Why can't we, you know, have a real time, oh, that's where the trucks are today?
You know?
And the animals, my gosh, I've lived there for a year, and the corridor aspect of these power lines for wildlife, unbelievable. I mean, I got foxes, deer, raccoons, skunks, rabbits, box turtles, and they come over to my property at night. They go back on the power lines. They go up and down the power lines, and it's a unique habitat, that a ribbon of wild land that actually has to be kept short. That's really a cool habitat.
No.
And forget about future bike trails and stuff like that you could do on these things. I don't even want to go there.
And that's just the animals that we can see. I mean, there's the whole life and soil biology and microorganisms and beneficial insects that we don't actually see, but it's a rhythm of life going on that's going to be completely disturbed by herbicides. You know, as well as mowing, as well as pruning. But we have to look at the pros and the cons of all these options and take the one that's least.
Yeah, well, the endocrine disruption aspect of these chemicals, you know, I'm now taking a thyroid medication. And
For preventative.
I know there's a lot of stuff, and the utilities aren't the only ones that are putting endocrine disruptors. We all are in our laundry detergents or what have you. But I mean, this is an opportunity. It may not be the biggest sprayer of endocrine disruptors, but I mean, it might not be the largest percentage, but this is maybe the largest single application.
Bingo.
Maybe.
That's it right there. So NStar, you know, has a responsibility of the power lines throughout Cape Cod, which travels between 100 and 120 miles. Times 200 square feet in most areas. So that equals a lot of amount, and I know there's Scott's Lawns, there's Chem Lawns, and there's other chemical applicators on the Cape as well, but that's a large jurisdiction. I am bold enough to say that NStar is the largest company allowed to spray the amount of chemicals above our aquifer. Like, that's in an unnecessary situation where there are other possibilities, other solutions. I just don't think it's right. It's not
You know
fair.
what? I am convinced that other solutions, and after I say this, I got to get back to lopping.
Yeah, right after.
But I am convinced that a few people out here lopping, and NStar could hire them, you know, that we can do it cheaper and faster by lopping and not have to go back as frequently as compared to spraying.
I concur. Yep.
So I'm going to go lop.
Yeah, myself as well. Thanks for saying hi, Jim.